1924, a team of archaeologists made an unusual discovery inside an abandoned monastery in Provence. Buried beneath collapsed stone and dust-thick silence, they found clay vessels sealed tight. Inside there were manuscripts, pages preserved as if someone had hidden them in a hurry or with intention. The documents were written in Latin, but the margins carried annotations in Greek and Arabic. They described the preparation of medicinal ointments the monks had collected over centuries. They weren't set original formulas. They were transcriptions, knowledge carried in by pilgrims, healers, and travelers from distant lands who stopped at the monastery seeking shelter. The monks listened, observed, copied, and preserved. What made the manuscripts unique was their focus. They did not describe illness as an enemy. They described the body as territory to restore. Each ointment had a clear purpose: to return the tissues to their ability to regenerate, to calm inflammation, to close wounds, to ease pain that settles deep into the joints. And those who studied the text noticed something unsettling. The formulas matched preparations found in Egyptian medical papyri, Persian treatises, and Ayurvedic texts, as if civilizations separated by oceans had reached the same conclusions, simply by observing the same human body. This audiobook recovers 12 of those ointments, 12 preparations that crossed time, used by priests, monks, and healers who had no pharmacy but the field, and no guide but careful observation of what truly worked. Chapter 1: Arnica Ointment, the balm of the alpine healers. In scattered villages across the alpine valleys, winter lasted longer than any other season. Roads disappeared under snow for months, and the mountains taught people to respect pain, because pain was frequent and help was far away. Up in the high meadows where the air thinned and the cold punished everything trying to live, a small flower appeared when spring finally softened the peaks. Bright yellow petals, a stubborn little bloom born among stone and wind. The shepherds called it many names, depending on the valley. But over time, one name prevailed: Arnica. And those who knew it understood something simple. This humble plant carried something the human body recognized immediately. The mountain healers had no apothecaries, no university physicians. They had inherited knowledge, passed quietly through long winter nights, and they had the plants that grew where they lived. Arnica held a special place in that knowledge, not for every ailment, not for every weakness. Arnica was for the blow, for the fall, for the muscle that protested after hauling wood up steep paths. It was the answer to the impact of hard living. Preparation followed a process that allowed no rushing. The flowers had to be harvested at the right moment, when the sun was high, but before midday heat wilted the petals. Healers preferred freshly opened blooms, petals still firm with new life. They picked carefully. They did not rip the plant out by the root. They knew the same plant would return next season if treated with respect. It was a worldview that feels nearly forgotten today. You didn't take everything. You took what you needed. After harvest, the flowers were dried in shade for several days. The drying was slow on purpose. Direct sun could strip away part of what made Arnica valuable. The healers watched for signs: the petal color, the scent, the feel between fingers. When ready, the flowers were infused in animal fat or in olive oil, depending on what each household had. The infusion took weeks. Some left it through an entire lunar cycle, believing the moon's rhythm shaped the strength of the remedy. Others waited for the practical proof: the oil turning deep golden, the scent becoming unmistakable. The finished ointment was stored in clay jars or dark glass away from heat and light. Kept well, it lasted for months. And in many alpine homes, there was always a jar waiting, because the moment came often: a slip on ice, a collision with rock, an ankle turning on uneven ground. Mountain life was generous with opportunities for impact. Application had rules. Arnica was never used on open wounds. never on skin that had lost its integrity. The healers were firm on this. Arnica was for closed injuries, the bruise forming beneath the surface, the swelling rising after a hard hit. It was applied with clean hands in a moderate amount, rubbed gently over the area. No harsh massage, no force. The ointment was allowed to penetrate on its own, at the skin's pace. Some covered the area with a warm cloth to encourage absorption. Others left it exposed and repeated the application several times a day. What the healers observed again and again was consistent. Swelling eased faster. Bruises moved through their color stages more quickly. Pain became tolerable sooner. No talk of miracles. No claims of instant cures. Just a simple principle, helping the body do what it already knows how to do more efficiently. Over time, Arnica's reputation spread beyond the valleys. Travelers carried the story. City herbalists added it to their catalogs. Even physicians who first dismissed it began to admit there was something worth attention. A small yellow flower, growing only where the air was pure and the heights were harsh, became one of the most sought-after remedies for bruises and contusions. And today, generations later, Arnica ointment still sits in homes around the world. Those who've used it tend to keep it with the same quiet certainty as those alpine shepherds did with their clay jars. They know the blow will come, and when it does, they shall have an answer, not an empty promise. A knowledge proven across centuries, in thousands of bodies that found relief in a yellow flower born between rock and sky. Chapter 2. Calendula Ointment. The secret of the medieval monks. In the monasteries of medieval Europe, where silence was law and days moved to the rhythm of prayer, there were gardens few outsiders ever saw. Not ornamental gardens, not places of leisure, medicinal gardens, kept with the same devotion as sacred texts. Within those protected spaces, behind stone walls, one plant was considered essential. The monks called it the virgin seps flower, for its golden color, for the way it bloomed near holy days. Time gave it a simpler name, calendula, and its reputation as a healer of skin crossed centuries without losing strength. The monks had inherited older knowledge. Romans used calendula for soldiers' cest wounds. Greeks mentioned it among useful plants, but medieval monks refined its use into method, documenting each step with the precision of scribes. In manuscripts that survived fire and looting, detailed instructions remain: how to harvest the blossoms, how to dry them, how to blend them with fats into a balm the skin seemed to accept with something like gratitude. Harvest happened in dry mornings after dew evaporated but before sunlight became harsh. They chose fully open flowers, the golden center exposed. They cut with clean knives and left enough stem for the plant to keep producing blooms. One calendula plant could give dozens of flowers in a season if harvested correctly. It was generous, almost as if it understood its purpose. Drying took place in ventilated spaces away from dampness. Flowers were laid on clean cloth, separated so air could move between them. The process lasted days, sometimes more than a week. The monks understood patience as part of medicine. Rush the drying, and the flowers darkened and lost potency. Dry them properly, and the orange glow remained, proof the plant held on to what mattered. To prepare the ointment, they used purified pork fat or beeswax from hives kept within the monastery grounds. The dried flowers were mixed into warm fat, not hot, and left to steep for days. Some texts describe 21 days as ideal. Others speak of a full moon. But all agree there was no place for haste. When steeping ended, the mixture was strained, petals removed, and the finished ointment was stored in containers. The monks often made themselves. Its primary use was for skin repair, not deep wounds that needed stitching, but superficial cuts, scrapes, mild burns, irritations from constant manual labor. The monks observed something crucial. Wounds treated with calendula healed cleaner. New skin formed softer, less prone to visible scarring. And infections, always a threat in a world without antiseptics, appeared less often when calendula was used correctly. Application was simple but strict. First, the area was cleaned with boiled water, cooled, then dried with clean cloth. A thin layer of ointment was applied, just enough to cover without suffocating the skin. The monks believed skin needed air to heal. They covered only when protection from dirt was necessary and applied again 2 or 3 times a day, watching the wound change. Over time, calendula moved beyond monastery walls. People who came for help left with small jars to take home. Mothers used it on children's sepsis cuts. Field workers rubbed it into cracked hands. It became a remedy passed down through generations, kept in almost every home where someone still remembered how to make it. And today, centuries later, calendula remains one of the most widely used plants for skin care. Those who've relied on it speak with the same respect as the old monks did, because some wounds will close on their own, but they close better when they sit given the right kind of help. Chapter 3. Myrrh Ointment. The sacred resin of the Egyptian priests. In ancient Egypt, where the Nile dictated life and temples rose like man-made mountains, certain substances were worth more than gold. Myrrh was one of them. Temple priests guarded it as a gift of the gods, a resin from trees in distant lands, arriving through desert trade routes. Its scent was unmistakable, thick, piercing, capable of filling a room with only a few drops. But myrrh was not only perfume, it was medicine, and Egyptian priests knew uses other civilizations would take millennia to understand. Myrrh trees grew mainly in regions known today as Somalia, Yemen, and Ethiopia, small twisted trees that looked unimpressive, but they produced resin that hardened in air into dark amber tears. Collectors harvested those tears carefully, knowledge passed down over generations. Quality depended on timing, tree age, and that year's climate. The best myrrh was expensive. Temples and royal courts were among the few who could pay. In Egypt, myrrh served many purposes. It was part of funerary rituals, used in preparations meant to preserve bodies for eternity. It was burned as incense, but priests who studied the living body discovered something else. They ground myrrh, mixed it into oils, and created balms for wounds, skin ulcers, and inflamed areas. Ancient medical papyri mention myrrh as one of the most valuable ingredients for skin conditions. Preparation began by grinding dried resin into a fine powder, slow work because myrrh resisted. Then it was mixed with olive or sesame oil, warmed gently until the resin partially dissolved and the oil absorbed its power. The result was a dark ointment with an intense scent, able to last for months without losing strength. Priests stored it in alabaster containers, cool even beneath desert heat. Myrrh ointment was reserved for wounds that showed signs of corruption. Egyptians didn't know bacteria, but they recognized patterns. Some wounds rotted, others healed cleanly. They observed that wounds treated with myrrh rarely developed the foul pus that signaled dangerous infection. Something in the resin seemed to prevent that decay, keeping the wound in a state that favored healing. It was applied directly to a cleaned wound, then wrapped in linen bandages woven so finely they amazed foreign visitors. Priests also used myrrh for mouth and gum problems, applied to sores, inflamed gums, irritated oral tissue. Pain lessened, sores closed faster. That use spread across cultures and lasted for centuries. Even today, myrrh extracts appear in oral care products. Egyptian knowledge did not vanish with the pharaohs. Greeks absorbed it. Romans used it on injured soldiers. Medieval Arab physicians included it in their formularies. Each culture added observations, but the core remained unchanged. A desert resin blended with oil applied to the body to help it heal. And for anyone seeking remedies rooted in that ancient continuity, myrrh remains impossible to replace. Its scent is the same that once filled Egyptian temples 4,000 years ago, and its ability to support healing still commands the same respect, as if time itself never managed to weaken it. Chapter 4. Comfrey Ointment. The Druids' Cest Balm. In lands now called Ireland, Wales, and Brittany, long before Roman roads cut through the landscape, there were people who carried their society's deepest knowledge. They were called Druids, priests, judges, physicians, teachers, all in one. They left no written texts. Everything was transmitted orally, from master to apprentice, over decades. But their plant knowledge ran so deep that fragments survived for centuries, preserved by those who lived close to forests and streams. Among all the herbs they used, one held a special place: comfrey. It grew in damp places, near streams, at forest edges where shade kept soil cool. Large, rough leaves, small flowers, white, pink, or purple. But Druids cared less for the flowers than for the root, thick and dark, and when cut it released a slick, viscous substance. That substance was the key. Celtic healers observed, over generations, that comfrey helped the body repair what had been damaged. Later, Anglo-Saxons gave it a blunt name: knitbone, not poetry, a description. They saw fractures mend faster, tissues regenerate more readily, wounds close with less scarring. They didn't know the science behind it. They knew the results. Preparation began with harvesting roots in autumn, when summer's energy had been stored underground. Roots were dug carefully, washed clean, chopped small, then crushed into a paste. That paste was blended with animal fat, often pork or sheep, heated gently so the fat could absorb the root's compounds, then strained and cooled until it became a dense, dark green ointment. Comfrey ointment was used mainly for closed injuries, sprains, bruises affecting deeper tissue, suspected hairline fractures, torn muscles. The application was generous, covering the area, and then bandaged to keep the ointment in contact with skin. Patients were told to rest. Druids understood the ointment helped, but the body still needed time and stillness to finish the repair. They also passed down a critical warning: comfrey should not be used on open wounds. Its ability to speed tissue growth could close the surface too quickly, trapping dirt or infection inside, creating serious problems. So it was reserved for injuries where the skin remained intact. That distinction showed sharp medical observation for a culture that left no written medicine. Over centuries, comfrey spread across Europe. Medieval herbalists grew it. Renaissance physicians wrote about it. Peasant families kept the method alive at home. Each household had its own small variations, but the essence never changed. And even today, comfrey remains available for those who look backward for answers the present sometimes forgets. Its root still releases that slick substance when cut, just as it did 2,000 years ago, and its reputation remains intact. The plant that helps knit together what has been broken. Chapter 5. Ginger Ointment. The heat of the Taoist masters. In the mountains of China, where mist blurred into cloud and temples clung to places that seemed unreachable, lived men who studied the body with a different purpose. They were Taoist masters. They did not chase illness the way ordinary physicians did. They sought to understand the flow of vital energy through the human body, invisible channels connecting organs, muscles, and joints. To them, disease was not invasion, it was blockage, cold settling, where warmth should circulate, stagnation where movement should live. And among all substances used to restore that flow, ginger held a rank few ingredients could match. Ginger was not rare in China. It had been cultivated for millennia in warm southern regions. Cooks used it. Merchants traded it. But Taoist masters saw more than flavor. They saw a root that generated heat in the body, dissolved blockages, returned motion to stiff joints. They considered it profoundly yang, a concentrated plant fire able to reach deep tissue. Preparation followed principles refined over centuries. Fresh ginger was grated into a wet, fibrous paste. That paste was mixed with sesame oil, considered superior for medicinal preparations. The mixture was heated over very low flame for hours, sometimes an entire day, allowing the oil to absorb ginger's pungent compounds without burning them. The result was golden oil, sharp in the nose, proof the root's strength remained. Then beeswax was added to thicken it into ointment. Its main use was joint pain, especially the kind worsened by cold and damp. Taoists noticed patterns: pain that rose in winter, worsened on rainy days, eased in warmth. To them, this meant cold had lodged in the joints, blocking energy and blood. Ginger ointment was the answer. Its heat penetrated skin, reached deep tissue, and dissolved that cold, like spring sun melting frost. Application followed a ritual. The ointment was warmed between the hands before touching the body, then rubbed onto the joint with circular motions, always with the direction of blood flow. Masters taught that rubbing the wrong way could worsen the blockage. After application, the area was wrapped in cotton or wool to trap heat. The patient rested at least an hour, no interruption. The effects were consistent. First warmth spreading inward, comforting, not burning. Then stiffness easing, movement returning with less pain. Not instant cure, a process, a gradual recovery requiring persistence. Applied daily for weeks, sometimes months, depending on how long the problem had lived in the body. Taoists also used ginger ointment for contracted muscles and stagnant circulation, lower back pain, overworked shoulders, feet exhausted from long distances. Always the same principle: heat where there is cold, movement where there is stagnation, life where vitality has thinned. This knowledge didn't remain trapped in mountain temples. It traveled along the Silk Road, reached India, blended with Ayurveda, crossed oceans into lands ancient China never imagined. Everywhere it arrived, ginger was recognized as heat, a root that woke the body from the lethargy cold and inactivity create. And today, anyone who knows that pain that rises with cold weather, that morning stiffness that takes too long to fade, can find in ginger ointment the same answer Taoist masters offered 2,000 years ago: heat that penetrates, dissolves, returns flow to the body. Chapter 6. Turmeric Ointment. The golden root of Ayurvedic sages. In ancient India, where sacred rivers crossed fertile plains and temples rose in carved stone, a system of medicine was already thousands of years old. Ayurveda, the knowledge of life. Its sages did not see the body as a machine that breaks. They saw it as an ecosystem seeking balance. Disease was imbalance. Health was harmony. And among all substances used to restore that harmony, one root was treated as almost sacred. In Sanskrit, it was called haridra. The world later knew it as turmeric. Its intense golden color became a symbol of purification, healing, and protection. Turmeric grew abundantly in tropical regions of India. Large leaves, white flowers, but the value was underground. Rhizomes thick with a yellow-orange substance so vivid it stained everything it touched. Sages discovered that color was not cosmetic. It carried properties the body could use, sometimes in ways that looked almost miraculous to outsiders. Preparation combined technique with reverence. Fresh rhizomes were washed, sliced thin and sun-dried for days, then ground into fine powder. That powder was mixed with sesame oil or coconut oil depending on region and intended use. The mixture was gently warmed, and mantras were often recited. To Ayurveda, intention mattered. The ointment's most famous role was calming inflammation. For generations, sages observed turmeric reduce swelling, redness, and heat in irritated tissues. They applied it to painful joints, strained muscles, irritated skin, and superficial lesions. And again, inflammation eased faster than when the body was left unaided. Application had one obvious downside. Turmeric stained the skin yellow for a time, sometimes days. But that stain wasn't seen as a problem. It was a sign. The area was often covered with banana leaves or cotton cloth to keep the ointment in contact for hours. For severe inflammation, it was applied 2 or 3 times daily, renewed each time to maintain potency. Turmeric ointment was also used for wounds. Sages noted cleaner healing and less infection risk. Applied to small cuts, abrasions, mild burns that didn't reach deep layers. It formed a protective layer, kept the wound moist, and reduced contamination. This aligned remarkably with discoveries made independently in distant cultures. Turmeric also held a place in purification rituals. Indian brides were covered in turmeric paste before weddings, symbolic, spiritual, and practical for the skin. Newborns received turmeric applications for protection. Elders used it to keep joints flexible, a substance present from birth to old age. Knowledge spread slowly. Arab merchants carried turmeric to Persia and the Mediterranean. Europeans later encountered it and brought it home. Today, researchers study turmeric's compounds to explain scientifically what Ayurvedic observation recognized 4,000 years ago. And for anyone seeking a remedy for inflammation, skin recovery, and ancestral continuity, turmeric remains exactly what it always was. A golden answer, staining the hands of healers across hundreds of generations. Chapter 7. Damask Rose Ointment. The balm of the Arab physicians. In Damascus, where gardens thrived through ancient irrigation systems, a rose grew that poets praised and physicians revered. The damask rose was not an ordinary flower. Its petals held an oil so precious that thousands of blossoms were needed for a tiny amount. Its fragrance was so complex, no perfumer could truly replicate it. And its medicinal value was so respected that caliphs grew it behind private walls. Among the physicians who wrote about it, one name crossed centuries. Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna. In the 10th and 11th centuries, when Arabic medicine reached a sophistication Europe would take centuries to match, Avicenna devoted substantial attention to this rose in his canon of medicine. Arabic physicians had preserved and expanded Greek knowledge. They integrated Indian and Persian learning. They refined distillation, allowing plant essences to be extracted with unprecedented purity. Distillation made rose oil possible in quantities useful for medicine. The ointment combined distilled rose oil with a gentle base. Physicians favored sweet almond oil for softness and absorption. Rose oil and almond oil were blended in carefully measured ratios, then thickened with beeswax. The result was a silky ointment with an intoxicating aroma, stored in dark glass to protect delicate compounds from light. Avicenna recommended it for inflamed and irritated skin, sun exposure, windburn, dust irritation, persistent redness. He observed that rose calmed the skin and returned it toward equilibrium as redness and discomfort gradually faded. But the ointment held another prized use: headaches. Physicians applied it to the forehead and temples, using soft motions, allowing the aroma to rise while the ointment soothed the skin and tension beneath. Many patients reported meaningful relief, sometimes before the ointment could even fully absorb. Arab physicians also used it for delicate wounds, especially on the face where scarring mattered. This was well known in royal courts and harems, where facial marks could change a life. The rose ointment became a quiet weapon against time, accident, and visible damage. Avicenna's writings reached Europe through translation. European medicine, having lost much of its classical heritage, rediscovered sophistication through Arabic texts. Damask rose cultivation spread into monasteries and medicinal gardens across the continent, and the ointment became a luxury remedy for those who could afford it. Today, damask rose remains one of the most valued botanicals in skincare. Its oil is still expensive, still requires thousands of petals, but anyone who's used it understands why it earned centuries of reverence. Chapter 9. Propolis Ointment. The sealant of the Greek beekeepers. In the hills of ancient Greece, with olive terraces under Mediterranean sun, beekeeping was an inherited craft. Greek beekeepers didn't set only harvest honey. They understood the hive's secrets, every substance bees produced, every method bees used to defend their city. Among those substances was one of special importance: propolis, from pro before and polis, city, literally what stands before the city. The barrier bees used to seal the hive entrance against invaders and disease. Bees made propolis by collecting resins from buds, poplar, birch, conifers, mixing them with wax and enzymes, creating a dark, sticky compound. Beekeepers noticed something extraordinary. In a hive crowded with thousands, infections were rare. The hive was one of nature's most sterile environments, and propolis was the main reason. They wondered, if it protects bees, could it protect humans? They began applying propolis to wounds, sores, infected skin. Results repeated. Wounds healed cleaner. Infections retreated. Skin recovered without the complications that could turn a minor cut into disaster. Soon, propolis became valued by Greek medicine. Preparation began with careful extraction from the hive without damaging the colony. Beekeepers scraped propolis, stored fragments in clay jars, then purified it in warm water to separate wax and impurities. Clean propolis was blended into olive oil, gently warmed until it formed a uniform dark amber ointment. Its primary use: wounds, cuts, abrasions, mild burns, stubborn skin ulcers. Applied directly to a cleaned area, then bandaged with clean cloth, renewed daily until closure. Physicians observed that even wounds beginning to infect improved under propolis, something few other remedies could claim. They also discovered another powerful use: mouth and throat problems. Beekeepers who chewed propolis noticed less irritation, faster healing of mouth sores, fewer dental problems. This spread. Propolis became both external and oral care. Greek soldiers carried it in campaigns. In an era without antibiotics, an infected wound could kill more reliably than a blade. Propolis was protection against invisible death. Applied quickly, sometimes on the battlefield before infection could take hold. Greek knowledge passed to Romans, then to medieval Arab physicians, then through European herbalists, who preserved it through darker centuries. And every time it was rediscovered, it proved itself again. As if bees had designed something not only for their own survival, but for any creature wise enough to use it. Even now, people hold propolis in their hands, and unknowingly hold the same remedy Greek beekeepers kept in clay jars over 2,000 years ago. A substance born from millions of bees, refined by evolution, offered to humans if they understand how to use it. Chapter 10. The Mint Ointment. The cooling touch of the Hebrew healers. In the lands once called Canaan, where hills were covered with aromatic herbs and fertile valleys fed entire peoples, a plant grew so commonly that most children stepped over it without noticing. Mint. It appeared near springs of water, along paths, beside fields, wherever moisture allowed it to thrive. Simple, humble, abundant. But the Hebrew healers knew this plant carried a power far greater than its appearance. Ancient writings mention mint alongside other sacred herbs, not only as flavor for food, but as relief for the body's daily sufferings. These healers worked not with rare substances from distant lands, but with what the earth offered freely, and mint was one of their greatest allies. They observed how it cooled overheated bodies beneath the desert sun, how it eased the heaviness of the head, how it soothed tension, digestion, fatigue, and aching muscles. To them, mint was balance in plant form. Its scent awakened the senses. Its touch calmed pain. They prepared aromatic balms from crushed leaves blended into oils, creating an ointment that carried both cooling and warmth, first numbing discomfort, then relaxing deep tissues. People came with headaches that pulsed like drums, with stiff necks after long labor, with stomach discomfort from poor meals or stress. And again, relief followed. Farm workers used it after long days in the fields. Travelers used it when heat overwhelmed them. Mothers used it for children, restless from discomfort. Generation after generation preserved this knowledge. When exile scattered the Hebrew people across distant lands, they carried mint wisdom with them. And when they returned, they brought back new understandings gathered abroad. Mint became part of Mediterranean medicine, known to Greeks, cultivated by Romans, studied by Arab physicians. Yet its roots lay in those early healers who first realized that a simple wild herb could restore comfort to the human body. Today its aroma remains instantly recognizable, its freshness unmistakable, and every soothing mint balm continues a tradition that began on sun-baked hills more than 3,000 years ago. Chapter 11. The Copal and Cacao Ointment, the sacred balm of the Maya healers. Deep in the tropical jungles of what are now Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras, rose stone cities surrounded by dense green life. Here flourished the Maya civilization, masters of astronomy, mathematics, architecture, and medicine. Their healing knowledge lived not in books, but in memory, passed from healer to apprentice, protected through centuries of conquest and silence. Among their most revered remedies was a sacred balm combining two divine substances, copal and cacao. Copal was a fragrant resin drawn from jungle trees. When burned, its smoke carried prayers to the gods. Its aroma marked ceremonies, blessings, and spiritual protection. Cacao was even more precious, used as currency, reserved for nobility, honored as a gift from the divine. But Maya healers discovered something beyond ritual. They learned that cacao's rich natural fat softened, protected, and restored damaged skin, and that copal carried cleansing and regenerative qualities. Together, they formed a balm both physical and sacred. This ointment was applied to skin scorched by tropical sun, to cracks caused by labor and climate, to minor wounds needing protection. It softened, shielded, encouraged renewal. But it was also used before sacred rituals. Participants were anointed with the fragrant balm, believed to create spiritual protection as well as physical well-being. The aroma remained for hours, a reminder of connection between body and spirit. When Spanish conquest shattered Maya cities, their healing traditions survived in hidden villages and forest communities. Centuries later, researchers would find remedies still in use, unchanged from ancient times. Today, cacao butter is prized worldwide for skincare. Copal continues to be studied for its medicinal properties. But the ancient Maya formula, this sacred union of resin and seed, remains one of history's most elegant natural balms. A reminder that profound medicine existed long before modern science. Chapter 12. Olive Oil Ointment, the Great Healer of Greek Medicine. On the island of Kos, where waves of the Aegean Sea broke against shores that witnessed the birth of civilization, lived a man whose name would define medicine itself, Hippocrates. Born around 460 BCE, he rejected superstition and sought natural causes and natural remedies. He observed the body with unmatched attention, and among all substances he studied, one stood above the rest: olive oil. He called it the Great Healer. The olive tree was sacred in Greece. Its branches crowned Olympic champions. Its oil lit temple lamps. Its fruit fed rich, and poor alike. But to Hippocrates it was medicine. He observed how wounds healed better when protected with oil, how dry skin regained flexibility, how sore muscles relaxed under oiled massage, how joints moved more freely, how even fevered bodies found comfort when gently anointed. Simple, powerful, universal, blended into ointments with beeswax. Olive oil became one of the foundations of ancient medical care, used for wounds and skin injuries, muscle tension and fatigue, joint stiffness, dryness and irritation, therapeutic massage, comfort during illness. His students continued the practice. Galen expanded it centuries later. Arab physicians preserved it. Medieval monks copied the knowledge. Across thousands of years, olive oil remained medicine. What made it extraordinary was not mystery, but accessibility. A substance so common, so humble, yet so deeply compatible with the human body. The ancients didn't need laboratories to prove its value. They watched healing happen, and they remembered